really tired of this. Getting really tired of this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another KOTOR Remake update. Things have become even more spicy, even more peculiar surrounding this beloved game that is finally getting a remake, but seemingly the remake for this title is cursed because Star Wars video games in general are cursed. So, last we spoke about KOTOR Remake, we had learned that it had been indefinitely delayed, that Aspyr was pretty much in stasis and currently looking for new work, potentially moved off of the project, and that Saber Interactive would instead be taking the helm to work on the KOTOR Remake. Now, this was all because of the vertical slice that they presented to Sony and Lucasfilms, and what they saw they didn't like. It led to the firing of a couple of directors at the studio, and again, they tried to transition the project elsewhere. That was the last we had heard about it. What we're getting here today is not only confirmation of that news, but a sign that Embracer Group is here to play, here to stay. Embracer Group is someone we've covered quite a bit back in the old days on Ham Radio Podcast, especially on Defining Duke as well, because I've always told people, keep your eye on them. Keep your eye on them. They're going to make a big splash. They're buying everyone up, right? Originally, they were getting a little fish. Then they got someone like THQ Nordic and was like, okay, all right, we got our eyes on you. But now this year, they have made some significant splashes. The last time you probably heard about Embracer Group was when they bought the Western Division for Square Enix, right? So they got a developer like Eidos Montreal, the Deus Ex IP, they got the Tomb Raider IP, so on and so forth. So they have a lot of talent underneath the umbrella now. And with all that talent, now they've got a major IP to give to any one of these studios underneath their umbrella, because overnight at about 3 a.m., I was just going to bed and all this news broke about Embracer Group entering into an agreement to acquire the IP rights to the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit literary works by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is a big deal, and it also, again, speaking of curses, it shows Defining Duke is a little bit cursed, because we were just talking about this and speculating on the deal, because earlier this year, we had learned that the rights for Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit were up for sale for about $2 billion. And it seems like Embracer Group won out because they have a ton of developers they can give this IP to and produce a lot in this universe. I never understood why this was not a universe that was just exploited for tons of video games, because there's so much that is unexplored, I feel. There's so much room to create something new here, or original characters that are very popular that you could base video game series off of. To me, what I hope to really see out of this, outside of brand new games, brand new adventures, is hand Aspyr the Lord of the Rings IP. And I know what you're thinking, Aspyr, right? They sort of lost their mojo after losing the KOTOR remake, but let them do what they do best, right? Ports. Let them take Lord of the Rings 2 Towers, Fellowship of the Ring, Return of the King, Third Age, bring those to modern consoles. That would be like one of the first things I do, like what Embracer Group and THQ Nordic have always done, right? Resurrect the old stuff, bring it to current platforms, get a little bit of a test on what the interest of certain things are for fans, and then move from there. That would be one of my first moves, and I do hope to see that out of Embracer and Aspyr. But let's talk about what we're all here for, which is KOTOR Remake. So this Lord of the Rings news was announced through a press release. Then there was a separate press release. This one was for their interim report Q1 April to June 2022. Their net sales had increased by 107%, but at the bottom of the press release was a very interesting comment that went unnoticed, but I saw it when reading it and I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. And the spin from Embracer Group is pretty interesting, to say the least. So they write, one of the group's AAA projects has transitioned to another studio within the group. This was done to ensure the quality bar is where we need it to be for the title. We are not expecting any material delays for the title based on this transition. This is really interesting, not only the spin, but practically confirming what Jason Schreier was reporting. What he had said was, as I mentioned earlier, that Aspyr was having a lot of trouble after 2 years. What they showed really wasn't up to snuff, and that what the word around the studio is that Saber Interactive, who was originally brought in to help the project, which I was really happy to see, like as a co-development partner, is now being handed the reins for the entire remake. To me, seeing that sort of firmed up through this press release is encouraging, because I do think if I had to pick between the two, I would pick Saber Interactive. I think they're very consistent. I think they've handled all manner of projects quite well, from remakes to ports to their own individual games. Don't get me wrong, they're not like a super sexy developer. I'm right there with you. But if I had to pick between the two, I would pick Saber Interactive because they've shown consistency and care with others' IP. I think of like their Witcher port. They did a wonderful job with that. That was a big deal. And I know it's different to make a remake, right, of a AAA style, but they've also done AAA style games, right? Like they made World War Z. That game was awesome. So I'm happy to see that this is relatively firmed up. I know we are insinuating a little bit, but it's very obvious this is about the KOTOR remake. So with that, we have to get into the actual comments from Embracer Group. First and foremost, they're saying that they are not expecting any delays on the title. Now, one thing that's always been in game development, but has become, I think, more prevalent, more important, is the use of GitHub, which I know has multiple uses, but what happens is effectively you create multiple branches so you can work on, in the case of game development, like individual parts of the game, like specific levels, specific components, whether it be programming, level design, lighting, so on and so forth. You use all these different branches that you make on GitHub that are connected to like ultimately a master branch. And I could see a situation where, like, as co-development partners, you know, Saber Interactive may have had access to all the branches, all the tools, and have been familiarized with the process enough where the transition will be smooth. I could see something along those lines as we have these work from home conditions. But you have to remember now that if Saber Interactive is absorbing this project, they have to put something else that they may have been working on to the side, restructure their entire staff, and keep in mind that before this, KOTOR Remake was in stasis. Now, it's good that they immediately had another partner that was familiar with the project, was working on it, brought in to help multiple months ago, where I do think, you know, again, the transition will be easier. Will it be in the sense of no delays? I find that hard to believe. And look, even Jason Schreier and I had like a really funny interaction on Twitter where he said, if you believe the entire ass video game can just seamlessly switch developers without any delays, I've got a Wookiee to sell you. Not speaking about me, but more so what Embracer Group was saying here. And I was just like, hey, look, if you're selling Zalbar, you know, from the KOTOR remake, I'm listening, but I digress. What's happening here is a company trying to, you know, keep things quiet, you know. Don't look at this. Don't pay attention to this. It's fine. You know, telling investors it's all fine. Because that's what you have to remember they're speaking to. They're not speaking to us, the fans, the consumers. This is in an interim Q1 report for their earnings. They are speaking to investors. You don't want to worry your investors. It's fine. We're not expecting any delays at all. We'll deliver the bad news later is probably what's actually on their mind. So I wouldn't buy into this too much. Here's where I throw the curveball your way, though, because there is an additional development here that I would like to highlight. Before all of this news had popped up, the plan with Embracer Group, as they had said, was to show KOTOR Remake gameplay within the next couple of months. Again, this was back around May, June. We are in that range right now. Funnily, the Disney and Marvel Game Showcase has just been announced, and Lucasfilm Games is going to be there, who's a partner with the KOTOR remake. Of course they are. So I look at that. I look at the expectation and no delay. I look at the timing of the statement. And look, if you know anything about game development, you can tell when a game is ready to be shown. You can just tell. Some companies, obviously, I think of Sonic Frontiers, even though I am excited for that game, don't seem to have the touch, the proper touch to know, like, okay, let's clean this up a little bit, because they can't differentiate between what they're seeing internally versus what the build that they're presenting looks like. But I do want to offer the possibility that there is a slight chance we could see it. And yes, hold on. Let me just, that's hopium right there. Okay. Just had to refill, you know, because, yeah, I'm hoping. And I know some people are like, hey, Matty, chill. Like, I was reading the feedback on my Twitter account when I posted, like, maybe we're going to actually see gameplay about this. When I say that, I think a lot of people conflate it, and I understand completely why, as me wanting to see it. And if you don't remember my original video when this news broke, I said just hold it. At this point, just hold on to it until you're ready to go. Because as much as I want to see it, and as much as I liked what I saw behind the scenes, I can't sit here and push for what I wouldn't want any developer to do, just because I'm a huge fan of the IP. So at the end of the day, I think there's a possibility we see it. And if they truly believe there is not going to be any delay, and they're saying that to their investors, which they also said we're going to show off gameplay a couple months ago, then to maintain that consistency, you'd have to show it off soon, and the time frame would make sense for the Disney Marvel Showcase. Keep in mind, because I know I've had sources in the past, I'm trying to continue to make it clear. My sources for the KOTOR remake have gone cold. I am in the dark as much as all of you, so all I can do is speculate. I don't know if that's actually the case. I just think to some extent, like a minor extent, it would make sense, but I am hoping that they hold it, and that will hurt. That will be very painful, because I want nothing more than to lay eyes on this game, embrace it, pardon the pun, for what it is, and just be excited about it again, because, you know, to me, this was such like a slam dunk. It's like, finally, it's happening. It's real. And this happens. I'm not trying to make it all about me. Of course, many of you are super fans like me, and you just want to see this game succeed. But patience is a virtue, and I'm trusting that, you know, Saber Interactive will handle this properly, because they are a trusted team to at least get the game out the door. But I'm just crossing my fingers that next time they show this to investors, it passes their quality test. But at the same time, we don't know what they saw that they didn't like. We don't know if they saw something very authentic to the original vision and they just went, no, we don't want that. Or if we saw something that radically changed KOTOR and they're like, no, you got to respect the DNA of it. Either or, I have no idea. But again, it's pretty rare in our industry to hear that someone saw a game and was so heinously offended by it that they were like, you're fired, switch developers. What the hell is happening here? Stop everything. That's really rare. So we'll see how it all develops. But of course, I had to be right on top of this, because obviously as a Lord of the Rings fan, I was just very intrigued by the news in general. But then seeing an update / confirmation on what's happening with the KOTOR remake, things are getting mighty spicy up in this building. And we'll see just in a couple weeks now if anything shows up at the Disney Marvel Game Showcase again. Don't mistake me speculating that for hoping for it. I just think there's a possibility, but I'm not going to say 50-50. I'm going to say 60-40. Like, I'll put myself more in the camp of it's not happening, because that's what I ultimately feel. Just my damn emotions are getting in the way. I consider myself a good reporter, a good reviewer, but my damn emotions, get out. All right. That's all I got to say about KOTOR Remake. I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts, your takes in the comments down below, so please do fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.